Hi, good evening, everybody. I think we have a quorum. I'll double check. We'll maybe wait a second. I know a couple other commissioners are still planning on being here. I guess we can just get rolling. So, good evening. This is the May 2024 meeting gathering of ANC 1C. The agenda is, I think, poignant as the word I'll use tonight. We'll begin with normal, just brief introductions. Which numbers we have. I was trying to do this strategically, but there's not like a good way. When I was in baseball and Little League, he would do numbers up, numbers down, middle out, middle, all these different strategies. I'm not going to overthink it though. Let's just start with Commissioner Michelson Horowitz, or 1CO1. You can introduce it.
Hi, Daniel Michelson Horowitz, 1CO1. That's the southern end of the neighborhood, bordered by Florida on the south, Wyoming on the north, and 18th on the east, and Connecticut and Columbia on the west.
1CO2.
Hi, everyone. My name is Commissioner Dixon. I represent 1CO2, which is Colorama Triangle between Columbia and Connecticut Northwest.
I'm Peter Wood, 1CO3. It's right in the middle, 18th to 19th, Biltmore to Wyoming. Commissioner Van Wy had a work commitment that he couldn't get out of, so I don't think he's going to be here tonight. So 1CO5.
Happy May Day, everybody. This is Commissioner Stevens representing 1C05. So that is Ontario to 18th, to Harvard, to Adams Mill, and then back around to Columbia.
Hi, Linda Laughlin, 1CO6, the other edge or side of Linear Heights on the east side, bordering 16th Harvard and those areas. Sorry, it's been a long day.
Jake Valaschini, 1CO7, 18th roughly to 17th, Florida roughly to Columbia.
1CO8, it's all you.
Barney Shapiro, 1CO8, at the southeast corner from Florida and 16th up to Jake's. And happy May, which is Jewish American Heritage Month.
And I don't know if Commissioner Jones will be here or not. So if he's on late, we can have him introduce himself. But for the time being, it looks like we're 7 out of 9. I guess we'll then move to officers' reports. It was a very busy month, but I don't think there's a lot of chair-specific things for me to alert. Commissioner Laughlin can go into more detail if necessary after the what do we call it? Rat walk and trash pickup or whatever we called it. It was successful. It looks like we might have more opportunity to gather more things like that and work with the Department of Health. And then also, there's the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions has been, I guess, doing small gatherings of chairs from around the city and doing Robert's Rules trainings. It was not anything new for the most part, but it was nice to be around people and discuss how to make sure our meetings are done in accordance with the DC code and Robert's Rules and efficient and serve the community well. So I hope that I've gathered enough information to continue doing so. Beyond that, just 1CO3 stuff. So I'll shift to Secretary's report. All you.
Thank you. So this month we have a pretty normal meeting calendar. So tonight's the ANC meeting, the full ANC meeting, 7 p.m. on Zoom, which is what we're doing right now. All the rest of the committee meetings are 7 p.m. on Zoom on Wednesdays, per usual. The next one will be the ABC and Public Safety Committee meeting on May 8th. Then we'll have the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting on May 15th. And then on the 22nd, we will have the Public Services and the Environment Committee meeting. This is one of those months where we've got 5 Wednesdays. So then we will have no meeting on the 29th before we resume our normal schedule in June. And June 5th will be our full ANC meeting in June. That's it.
I have one question. This is as good an opportunity as any to bring it up. So we had already voted, of course, on our schedule for the rest of the year, but July, we didn't really discuss. July 3rd is our scheduled full ANC meeting. Do people want to shift everything a week? We'd have to put it in, we could do it next month. I just bring it so we can have a month to prepare and discuss it and vote on it next month. Anyone have any preferences? You don't have to answer now, but if you do, speak, and if not, we can discuss it later. But having a meeting at 7 p.m. a few hours before the 4th of July seems not the best of foresight on our part. But we could always cancel it too. We don't need to have 11 meetings per year. We only need to have 9. And if the agenda's not full,
with July having, I believe, 5 exactly. So we could shift everything a week later, right?
yeah, that's a possibility too. And we don't have to decide right this second. I just realized I hadn't brought that to the full commission's attention at a public meeting before. So
I will, just in advance of it, considering this is our next chance, we could do it in June, but we may as well do it now.
that's true.
Given that, why don't I just move that we shift our July meeting schedule back 1 week so that the July ANC meeting will take place on July 10th, ABC and Public Safety Committee meeting on the 17th, the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee on the 24th, and the Public Services and the Environment on the 31st. Do I have a second?
I'm going to interject real quick, just so we do this properly. Maybe we should move to add a late agenda item to the agenda, something like that, just so that we have, yeah. So I will second if that's what you're doing. And let's vote to put it on the agenda, and then we can have a brief discussion.
That is exactly what I was doing. That's so amazing. You were inside my mind, Commissioner Wood. Yes, that's what that's perfect.
All those in favor of the addition of considering shifting the July schedule by week?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'll just put that towards the end of the agenda. That should be a quick talking point. So the next treasurer's report.
Barney, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you, Linda. As of April 30th, we had $3,446.85 in the account, one outstanding check of $250, 2 bills that are now due, amounting to one of $500 for Sean, one of $250 for the intern. Once those are paid, that will leave us an available book balance of $2,446.85.
So that's better than the $40 or whatever last month, right?
Yes,
Dug out of a hole.
yes, it is better than that. Yes.
And then we do still have those 2 potential payments from last year that either we will fight and claw our way to get, or, and this is partially on me, apply for the OANC assistance funds to kind of supplement that. Is that correct?
Well, I finally, they put us in a difficult position. They put us in a difficult position in that they're saying we could not issue those checks, but those were all legitimate checks that were not discretionary checks. We would have been violating criminal code in 2 of those instances. Actually, it's 4 of the instances, because 4 of the checks, it would have been theft of funds, which is theft of services, which would be a violation of the DC criminal code. And then the second one would have been failure to pay federal withholding tax, which of course is a violation of the US code. The other one, there's one other check to DC, which I'm not sure on where that falls. That's the Family Leave Act, whether that would have been a criminal or a civil issue. But in other words, what they are saying is they're basically saying that we should have not written those checks, in which case I believe I would have been subject to criminal charges. And I'm too old to go to jail.
Of course, I'm not an attorney on this, but this an interesting point, and those are interesting observations that we could probably discuss further during the security fund item later tonight too. Because I agree that they put us in a difficult spot, and as we've discussed in previous months, it has been stressful.
Yep.
I think we're clawing back, but it's been a lot of.
Listen, I think they are. I believe they're trying to help. I honestly do. I think that they don't quite understand. I know they have a responsibility to enforce the ANC law, not the other laws. So it's unfortunately that there are many laws that are at loggerheads here.
I agree. Well, thanks for the update. We'll keep attentive and hopefully are on a better path than the last couple of months, which was out of our control. Let's see. Next on the agenda, commissioner announcements, and if you're the chair of a committee, updates on the committee as well. I guess. Oh, we'll start in reverse order, and Commissioner Jones can introduce himself as well. Introductions and any SMD updates, Commissioner. Commissioner Jones, we'll start with you. Actually, no, we'll wait until he has his headphones on so he can hear me say that. Commissioner Jones, can you hear me? You're on mute, but the floor is yours. If you want to introduce and give any SMD update.
Jet fuel on the fires of anti-Semitism. Those fires on the campuses of America and across capitals around the
Commissioner
world.
update, SMD update.
Don't look real.
Get some background noise too. If you're able to.
Commissioner Jones, could you lower your TV, please?
Give me a second.
We'll come back to you. Commissioner Shapiro, you got any SMD?
And even sweaty internet trolls.
Actually, no, that was faster than I thought.
No, I'm going to pass on the SMD stuff today. Okay.
Right. Commissioner Jones.
Yes, I'm going to pass too because I don't have anything to report.
That works. Commissioner Falskini.
Yeah, I'm really happy to report that after 2+ years of advocacy, we finally have a resurfaced park at Unity Park, up on Columbia and Champlain Street. So last night walked by and there were folks hanging out in there again. I mean, just people doing what they do in parks, which is great. So it's very nice. The surface, I kind of inspected all of it. It looks much higher quality than the surface that was there before. So I really hope that this is going to last a lot longer, and want to give kudos to so many of the folks around the neighborhood that pushed so hard for this. I know there are just a lot of people, and I think Vikram and Nancy in particular deserve a lot of praise for the advocacy that they did to make sure that this actually went in and at the quality that it's supposed to. So just shout out to everyone that made this happen. Otherwise, there's a lot of building going on in the SMD. So just appreciate everyone's patience as we deal with all the construction. We had a new crane go up on Champlain and Ontario at the Jubilee project that's happening there. And I know that they're going to present on a different project tonight, but just appreciate everyone's patience as we get kind of the core infrastructure of this in place so that, after the outsides go up, it spills out into public space a lot less because they'll just be working on the inside of the building. So just appreciate everyone's patience as we deal with it. And there's another big construction project happening up on Champlain and Euclid. Everybody probably saw that big pit in the ground across from the Line Hotel, where there's another, looks like about a 4.5-story building that'll be going in up there. And then there were some issues this week on another blighted property on Champlain Street, kind of midway up between Kalorama and Euclid. That some neighbors were called in the Department of Buildings. The Department of Buildings responded extremely quickly, was able to get that dealt with, and it has now been officially designated as blighted and abandoned. And hopefully that lights a fire under that developer to get that project moving as quickly as possible. So it isn't just a gross abandoned building that's sitting next to all of our neighbors right there. So, and thank you to so many of the neighbors that worked on that. So lots going on in the SMD, but lots of good developments, and we see a lot coming in to house both existing and new neighbors in our SMD.
ABC committee, got anything for that?
Oh, thank you. The only two things that I noticed come in this week is that I believe that there was a marijuana store license that came in, but I don't think that it's actually in Adams Morgan. Two, but I don't think either of them are actually located within Adams Morgan. So we can list them up for ABC and still just quickly kind of take any feedback if folks want to. We'll still plan to have a public safety update. Very pleased to report that public safety across the district, but especially in Adams Morgan, is way down this year. So starting to come into normal levels, which is really, really good to see. But we'll still have a public safety update. It's still important for us to keep track of all of that. And we'll at least list up those two marijuana licenses.
No, Jake, I think the two licenses, did we already do Peachy, not Peachy, there's one at 1768 Columbia and one at 2116 18th. I don't think we've discussed those two, and they came in this week.
So they are in our SMD. I thought that there was one over.
Yeah.
All right. Either way, we'll list them up, and if they're in the SMD, even better, and we'll just dismiss them if they're not. And Commissioner Michelson, Horowitz, thank you. I'm a little brain foggy. I'm fighting off a cold, and public safety is up. Public crime is way down. So just to clarify, we're in a good place with crime in the neighborhood right now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Laughlin.
Yeah, like Commissioner Wood mentioned at the beginning, we had a pretty large group of people that came and joined for the rat walk. We had two staff from the Department of Health walk. We sort of started from the line, went down part of Euclid, wrapped around back over to Kalorama Park, and the number of residents who joined us were able to bring DOH to their particular buildings that had some issues, and notes were taken, and I need to do some follow-up with them, but apparently some of the issues facing our neighborhood would require coordination across multiple agencies. So that would include the DPW as well as the Department of Environment, particularly because when people are using either management companies or homeowners, if you're using a rat bait box and you don't have the bait on a spindle, that bait it's loose and it can like travel outside of the box. And so that's bad. And we don't want that to happen. And it can also cause some environmental issues. So I plan to follow back up with DOH to have like another coordinated walk through the community with multiple agencies, and also got good feedback that even if you are in an apartment building and don't necessarily get direct services from the city for rat control, there are certain mitigation processes you can take to sort of get your management to help with rat control in your area. And yeah, we picked up a lot of trash. I mean, that's good and bad, right? So, but any little thing helps. Similar to some other areas in the SMD, there is a lot more construction going on in 1C06 between actually the building I live in. We're getting our roof replaced on our co-op building. It's been like years in the making, so we're really excited, but it is blocking a lot of linear place. And some of the apartment buildings on Harvard are also sort of in the final stages of construction. And there's also going to be some alleyway repairs. And I believe DDOT started putting up some warnings on businesses and homes later this week that will take away some parking. Our permits will be put up to restrict parking in certain parts. And then I get a consistent question from some of my constituents about Unity Park. And since I wasn't on the ANC when some of these agreements were made, I reach out to those of you who may have some background on it, but there is an understanding that the Line Hotel was supposed to help pay for some of the repaving. And I don't know where that lies and if there's something that we as an ANC should be following up on to see if there's certain obligations that the line is not following up on or anything in that nature. But any knowledge that any other ANCs could share, and that would be really appreciated.
PSC, got anything this month?
I have first some bad news and then some weird news. So the bad news is it seems like just the other day we were all celebrating Foxtrot coming in and all that, and unfortunately they are gone now already. So my vision and hope is that we will have another Phil's Foxtrot type of place. I'm kind of leaning more towards more of a Phil's kind of thing where there's more seating, so it can be a community gathering spot. As much as possible. So there's that. And then the weird news is I was just informed that some of the free newspaper boxes have been disappearing from the corner or near the corner of 18th and Columbia. So if anyone has any information on that, let me know, if there's some legitimate reason why they keep disappearing, or if there's someone who's carrying them away as a practical joke or whatever. I don't know why in the world anyone would take those. But anyway, if anyone could let me know that would be fantastic. So that's all my news.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Laughlin.
Commissioner Wood, I forgot one thing. If I may jump in.
You do.
The grant that we funded for the DC archaeologists, we successfully got them their check in June. Is technically they're celebrating DC Archaeology Month. So there'll be some flyers and postcards that I'll get some access to, and I'll share with the ANC that promote some of the events at Kalorama Park for that event.
Great, thank you very much. So 1CO3, there's always stuff going on, but it hasn't been too busy. The 1836, 1840 Kalorama, we supported their application for zoning exemption. I think they're about to ready to do construction. So that's a storied facility that used to be housed a school for the deaf run by Alexander Graham Bell's wife. And there's a dumpster in front of it now, so I assume that there will be more noise soon. And then also on Belmont, the 1800 block of Belmont, I think they're close to finishing the lead pipe replacements. I hope so. Kind of with other blocks, it seems to kind of linger for a while, so I don't really know how the timeline works, but haven't heard anything to expect it to be too much longer. Beyond that, Kalorama Park is, of course, blooming, and if anyone's, as always, open to volunteering in the gardens, a lot of people came out, I guess it was last week, kind of had an informal volunteer day to get a lot of the park cleaned up, and that went really well. I think maybe a couple dozen people came out or something, so there's opportunities if you're interested in being out and about in the neighborhood. 1CO2, up to you, Commissioner Dixon.
I have no updates in my SMD. It's been pretty quiet, but I can provide a little update from our past PCT meeting. We met with Jubilee Housing, who presented about the development at 18th and Columbia. Are they presenting tonight? Were you able to get in touch with them? Yes. Okay, great. Then I won't go into much of the details since they are going to be presenting again, but we met with them. It was a really good meeting. The community had good questions. And they will share more later.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Michael Horowitz.
Yeah, just a couple updates. As folks who have reached out to me know, there's some new DCPS contacts on the school renovation on 19th. If anyone has ongoing construction concerns, please let me know, and I will loop in our DCPS contacts to get those addressed. They are working to accelerate the request for some new trash cans on 19th, because the ones that were on 19th are now behind the construction barriers on the sidewalk on the side of the school. Thanks for everyone's patience with DC Water and then DDOT repaving of California Street. It appears now to be done, and as of today or yesterday. I also reviewed the latest submission from the developer who's working on the Universal Towers. They are working on financing for a construction start in the fall. They've promised a public meeting about construction there, and so they had a latest submission of various updates to curb cuts and signal changes and you name it. It's a very complicated process. That is all. And of course, thanks for everyone's patience with the the White House Correspondents' Dinner this past I don't know, was it Saturday night? So yeah, we got through it. I saw Al Sharpton on the sidewalk.
Between that and the construction on the nearby buildings, that's a busy corner of the neighborhood at some point. So we'll move on to community updates. As always, please do your best to keep your comments, within a couple of minutes or so. I will politely interject if things start to meander. And also, just as a reminder, if you're at any meeting, including tonight, and here to discuss any specific agenda item, that's probably the best time to address it, although you're free to do so now. And please raise your hand if you have any comments. All right, we'll start with Kristen from the Adams Morgan Partnership and Business Improvement District. Welcome. Good evening. How are you doing?
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
All right, great. So I think you all know that we're getting ready for Porch Fest on Saturday. Woohoo! There is a chance of rain, so we are monitoring that really carefully. I think we're going to meet tomorrow morning with the planning committee and sort of make the final call. But it's looking better and better. Sunday looks like a lot more rain, but I think we might be okay for Saturday. So fingers crossed. But as you know, the 18th Street is going to be closed between Calorama and Columbia Road. And we're going to use the Meridian barriers that we purchased and used in the fall. So there'll be the barriers and police cruisers, but no dump trucks. So baby steps. And the cruisers aren't really necessary, but we're not there yet. So anyway, yeah, more on that another time. Let's see, we've got 22 performance locations, including 3 what we're calling main stages. So we're going to have music right in front of my office at 2424 18th Street. That's the Etna stage. The Plaza stage is going to be in front of Truist Bank. And then we're also going to have music on the front patio at Marie Reed Elementary School as well. So we're going to have kind of 3 main stages with different all kinds of different music. But the Chuck Brown Band is going to be headlining at the Etna stage at 5 p.m. So that's one performance you won't want to miss. And let's see. So Chuck Brown Band, the Experience Band, who's always super fun. They're the brass band. Flex Matthews, Got You Covered, which is a cover band. They performed in the fall. They're performing both at Porch Fest at 4 o'clock in the Plaza stage, but also they're going to be performing at Roofers Union later that night. So if you miss them at 4, head to Roofers Union. They're going to be there at 8 or 9 o'clock Saturday night. Max Rosado and the 7th Street Band, Gracie J, and a young woman named Ari Vox. Ari performed this morning with me at DC News Now. We did a promo piece live at 10 o'clock this morning, and Ari performed there. So that was super fun to hear her. She's got a fantastic range. I was really impressed. So the full lineup of all of the performers are up on our website now. It's admoporchfest.com. So if you want to plan out your afternoon on Saturday, it's admoporchfest.com. We will also have printed maps as well, but we're trying to encourage people to use the online. New this year, we're doing a VIP experience. And there'll be unlimited food and drinks for people who buy the VIP package. It's $75 a person, and we still have tickets available. So it'll be unlimited food and drink, You have to be 21, of course, to participate. But there also will be some swag bags, and there'll be access to event restrooms, reserved VIP standing near each main stage, and forget what else, but it's a nice menu that Lamont Royale has put together. So, and their patio there will be just for the VIPs. So, but there are still tickets available if anybody's interested in buying those. And then, of course, we're doing the wristbands again. So at the 3 headquarters, which will be right near each one of those 3 main stages, everyone can pick up a free wristband. There'll be the paper wristbands. And we have 50 businesses that are offering some kind of discount on Saturday. So for anybody wearing a wristband. So please come get those. Those are completely free. This Porch Fest t-shirts, we are not selling them at the event itself. We're selling them at 4 retailers, and they're all ready for sale. So if you'd like to go get a Porch Fest t-shirt and wear it on Saturday, they're $20. You can buy them at Smash, at Adams Morgan Ace Hardware, at Urban Dwell, and at Because Science. Yeah, like I said, they're $20. They the business will keep 10 and they'll give us 10. So it's will help us break even on the t-shirts. But it's a great way to get more people into our retailers. So we've gotten some great sponsorship this year. Aetna has come through again. Wegmans is sponsoring this year. Gifted Curators, Tattoo Paradise, and Lars at Corn Law. So we're super appreciative of all of their donations, because they really help make the event a lot bigger and better every year. So yeah, so I think that's it. If anyone has questions about Porch Fest, let me know. I also want to plug 2 more things happening this month. May is going to be a super busy month for us. Bike to Work Day is going to be Friday, May 17th. I know a couple of the commissioners have already offered to volunteer that morning, so really appreciate that. We'll be sending out a little bit more information to folks who want to volunteer a few days before the event. But we're going to have coffee and bagels from Trist. There'll be a number of some of our new Adams Morgan businesses. Venture X is going to be there with some coupons for checking out their co-working space. The new Lunar Massage is going to be there doing short shoulder massages. And of course, Wobble will be there with their bike ambassadors. It's going to be a really fun morning. So it's 7:30 to 9:30 in Unity Park. And then this is part of the whole regional Bike to Work Day. There's 80 some pit stops around the region. So it's a great day. And then on May 21st is when we kick off the movie nights. So those will be on the soccer field at Murray Reed. The movies will start about a half an hour after sunset. We have to wait for the sky to get dark. So by then it'll probably be close to 9 o'clock when we start the movies. And we're doing a sports theme this year in honor of the Olympics that will start in July. So there's 6 weeks, May 21st through the end of June. The rain date is going to be the week after July 4th week. So I think that's the 9th if we need to use it. So come on down to the field. There's going to be some special activities for around Pride, around Juneteenth. And then we also have a family night, and there'll be some activities for kids. We'll have balloon animals and face painting. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure to mark your calendars for Tuesdays starting May 21st. So I think that's it for me, but I'm happy to take any questions.
It's a busy month indeed. Thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Any questions, commissioners? Thanks for being here, Kristen. See you
Yeah,
later.
sure. All right, take care.
Looks like we have one other hand up. Vikram?
Hey there, greetings, folks. Can you hear me?
Can.
Terrific. I so appreciate all of your hard work in all these ways we've been talking about already. I just wanted to add a fun note about Unity Park. I was able to get in touch with the original sculptor of the beautiful sculpture that's in the center of it, and we'll be doing tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Zoom a walk walk around the sculpture and talk with him. He's in Savannah, along with Steve Coleman of Washington Parks and People, who was actually the advocate that first helped get that installed. And I just wanted to maybe plant the seed that there may be some funds that might be helpful to do some maintenance on the sculpture itself that we might circle back about. But also, we are trying to inquire about the the fountain at that sculpture being reactivated. They are, while they're digging up Columbia Road, they're identifying all the utility lines, and so we're hopeful that someone can actually assist in actually reactivating that. And if anybody knows more about that. And then the third thing I'll say about Uni Park, I was able to have a good long chat with the actual contractor, the manager on site, the company's custom park, and there were some details that folks might be interested to know. So initially in 2017, the community had requested an all rubber surface. In this instance, it was actually what was implemented was a half rubber, half stone surface. And the actual glue was implemented at the 5 gallon per 100-pound level. And this is just kind of an informal aside, but one of the fellows on the site said when he does it at his property, he likes to use 7 gallons. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I'm hopeful that we have a really good, long, happy surface there. And thanks everyone who helped get us this far. And happily, also DDOT was able to make, and DPR were able to make the Tree of Life pattern happen, although in slightly different colors. And so hopeful that we have an even more lovely space. And thanks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all that and for all your hard work. If you have a link for that talk tomorrow, if you could share it in the chat, it would be great, and we could share it. If not, that's okay too.
Right.
All right, it looks like that's all for public comments. So we'll move on consent agenda. And this is a very, very small thing that I did learn one thing at the Robert's Rules thing I was at. We don't technically have to motion or move or second or vote on consent agendas, just as long as no one opposes to it and wants something removed. It just because it's a consent agenda. Very, very small detail, but it's technically just a unanimous vote unless someone wants an item taken off, which should be done in advance anyway. So in light of that, the consent agenda is just technically 2 different minutes because we had a special meeting on the 10th. So just the minutes from those. If no one objects, the consent agenda will pass. All right, and we'll move on. The regular agenda, first item, coming from, I think it was a unanimous vote from PZT a few weeks ago. Jubilee Housing is seeking support for their Historic Preservation Review Board application for redevelopment of 1800 Columbian Road Northwest. So I think they're going to give an abridged version of the presentation from the PZT meeting. And I'm not sure who specifically will give it. Eric and Jim have their hands up, so I think we'll bring them up. And Steve and anyone else who's relevant and puts their hands up. Yeah. All right. Good evening. I guess we'll wait. There's a couple other hands coming too. Good to see you, Eric. How are you doing?
Good evening. Yeah, we're very happy that we're able to move forward to the next step with this. And, the subcommittee was appreciative of our efforts. Steve, could you give a quick presentation of the drawings, please?
Yeah, they're just getting promoted up, so they're on the way. I think Jim's waiting as well, Sean. The floor is all yours, Steve, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you doing?
Sorry for the delayed beaming me up. Hey, so I'll offer a couple of really general comments to get going here and then turn it over to Steve and Eric to go. I think we're going to see some images, or however you decide it's the best way to do that. So first of all, community just super excited to be involved with this site and this location in the neighborhood, such a prominent place, so full of history and culture and value, and just really meaningful for our organization to be in this site. Most of you know that it's been subject to all kinds of history. Some of its more recent history has been some litigation around a dispute over how the site would be developed. And we're sort of pleased to say that we've been working with KCA and Adams Morgan for reasonable development and have a basic agreement in principle, and that has been able to yield the plans that you'll get to see. I will say a couple of brief things about it and then tee you up, Steve. So we're in the process of making application to the Historic Preservation Review Board. And one of the things that's before you tonight is hopefully support of the project via a letter of recommendation. So when you see the images, I'll just point out that the plaza itself is still under design and under discussion. But one of the things we're most pleased about is we're able to reach a building size that will yield about 50 units of deeply affordable housing and still able to maintain the full existing plaza area. And that was the result of a lot of hard work between all of the parties and some good design ideas, and hopefully you will like those. So just know that this plaza design is under development, and as it's sort of finalized, we will bring it back out for comment. But it's really the building portion of the design that we're moving forward externally through the HPRB. I will say 50 units at the moment. About half of those are family-sized units, 2 and 3 bedrooms. About half of those are studios and 1 bedrooms. The depth of affordability is kind of right in Jubilee's sweet spot. A little over 40% will be 30% area median income and below. About 40% will be 50% AMI and below. Lots of numbers here. And about 10% will be 80% AMI and below. So mixed income, but mixed from deeply, deeply affordable up to 80% AMI. I think that's the highlights that I wanted to hit. I think you're probably more interested in hearing from Steve, and I will turn it over to him, and we'll try to keep our comments short and then let the commissioners decide how much Q&A to have afterwards.
All right, thank you.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Steve Dickens. I'm the project architect designer at Eric Robert & Associates for this project. Let me do a screen share if I can figure out which screen I can share. I'm going to shoot that one. Okay. So this is a site I think everyone knows. Right at the corner there of 18th and Columbia. So this is kind of looking southwest with Columbia at the right side of the building on the plaza and 18th Street at the left side. And you can see that there's a significant public space on the corner there, and then the building is holding back from that. The height of the building is similar to like the Millwood across the street in 1841 Columbia further down. And it's very, in the historic preservation terms, it's very compatible, I think, in its size. So you've got the public plaza, which, as Jim said, is still kind of in the works to some degree design-wise. And then the building. Of note is the public plaza is the 4,095 square feet, which is the part within property lines. It's not extending into the sidewalk area at all. And then the building on the southern part of the site. And then in between the two is this loggia space, as we're calling it, which was kind of an innovation, I think, in that it allowed that particular slice of space to be both public plaza and building. And that was kind of a breakthrough when that happened. You can see in where the alley is in the back, we show a loading berth service. We also see these curving lines. That's a DDOT thing that when you do new construction, they like you to fix old problems. And in this case, the turn of the alley, they consider to be too sharp. So there's kind of a de facto alley widening in order to get that to happen, which is really a public thing. The driveway, if there's an underground garage, is off of 18th, which would not be maybe the most obvious place to put it, but because of the way the site slopes, it really is the only place that works at all for it to go. So we have this curving facade that's facing. Oh, one other thing I want to mention, sorry before we left it. The 4,095 square feet is not a random number. That's the number of square feet in property lines that the current plaza has. And that's both the kind of lower part of the plaza and the sort of raised balcony area part of the plaza put together. So this is matching that size, although it doesn't have the split of high and low. It's just all basically on one level. So we've got the building here. You can see it's kind of, you could call it a modernized traditional building or a traditionalized modern building, however you want to frame it. But it's using, you know, brick and other materials that are familiar in the neighborhood, in historic districts in general, in the district. It's got this curving facade with some implied towers on either side that's facing towards the main intersection there. And it's a kind of a quiet building in a way, but it's creating a backdrop for this plaza. And then on the Columbia Road side, there's a slight arc there in the road, and so that's kind of adding a bit of interest to this otherwise I think handsome but you know, kind of generic facade. So it's very, you know, carefully worked out proportion wise. And you can see on the left side here the loggia, this high opening to the 2-story high loggia, which has at that point there's actually steps going down to the plaza level. Then on the 18th Street side, where we have the main building articulated, and the projecting bays, and then we have kind of in effect as if it were a separate building on the south side where the garage door is, and then this is almost done as if it really were a separate building and it's some kind of mid 20th century building where you might have the, as I would say, the dance studio on the second floor and the private detective on the third floor and who knows what on the fourth floor. But it's giving a step up from the buildings on going down 18th, which are predominantly 3-story, although there's some 2 and some 4, and you know it probably better than I do even. So look at the plaza here. This particular version of it is as if there's a stage set up with some kind of audience. That hasn't been fully worked through yet. It's something we're still working on with them. But I think that one of the essences that we do have is that it's basically open to 18th Street and eliding with the sidewalk on 18th. And it's not quite level, but keeping it much flatter. The current plaza, one of its problems is it just has so many kind of levels and changes. So we're keeping it not literally level, but much more level, such that on the 18th, on the Columbia Road side, there's a bit of an elevation change with the planters here in the trees. And coming in again, this is that same view. It's actually literally the same rendering with the same people in the same stage and everything, just from a pedestrian eye view. One of the things that we're looking at is civic elements, specialty elements along the loggia, and in particular at either end of the loggia, where within this sort of the base of what comes off as these tower elements, we are looking at one is the Knickerbocker Theater memorial panel, and another would be it's redlining in DC, Perpetual Bank, in a sense, sort of the history of how this plaza came to be. We're not designing it, mind you. This is just kind of throwing up something to give a sense of what it might be like. And then in the middle portion, in the loggia, we're looking at having murals that's kind of the backdrop to the stage. And those elements are things that we, the architects, don't intend to design. We're trying to provide an integrated architectural place for them, but that's something that Jubilee, working with the community and probably some outside experts, would be figuring that out. So looking in plan, let's just very quick. So on this, the first floor / street level that's here at the right. The darker orange is the residential lobby coming in off of 18th Street. Then we have the kind of cream colored is a couple of retail spaces, one facing 18th, I'm sorry, residential's off Columbia. Yeah. Southwest residential is also off Columbia. Then we kind of have a service area in the middle. There's also a plaza storage room worked in here. I might note, since it has come up, the space on 18th Street is earmarked for the bank. I think that's part of Jubilee's agreement with Truist in getting the site, but they may not necessarily take it. They have the option to take it if they want to, but they may or may not. In any case, there's the space there. On the second floor, then you see the upper level of the loggia here, and we start to get the sense of the core in the middle and these apartment units surrounding it, which comes to more full fruition on the upper floors where now the floors are extending out over the loggia. They're also extending out over the de facto alley widening, at least part of it. So we're getting the more full footprint. You can see in the front two corners, there's a couple of 3-bedroom units. Then we have a 2-bedroom in the middle here and another couple of them on the south side of the building, and then kind of filling in some of these spaces with some of the smaller units that fit there nicely. And then up the top at the right here, the penthouse level, the brilliant green is the green roof. We're looking at having a roof deck there. The views, of course, will be stunning. Community room on one side, and then some social service offices on the other, with a mechanical room in the middle portion. At the left, we have the cellar, the underground garage level, which for a very oddly shaped site actually lays out pretty well and gets about 25 vehicle spaces, which was frankly kind of a surprise to me, because usually these sites shaped like this don't usually park very well, but this one did all right. So that is really the other presentation. I guess I would mention that for HPRB, we have made application to them. I don't know if their formal referral has come to you yet, but it should have, because we applied a couple weeks ago. And the site is placarded and the neighbor notifications have gone out. The meeting will be, the Historic Preservation Review Board's meeting is on May 23rd. And that is, as you know, open to the public. It's also a Zoom type meeting. But that's what we got.
All right, yeah, thanks for sharing all that and sharing it again, including the last committee meeting. We'll start with commissioners. Any outstanding questions, comments? I have some, but I can wait if other people have some. Commissioner Jones, go ahead.
Yes, I'm really excited about the design and of course the fact that provisions are being made for low and moderate income people. And this speaks of the character of the impact that Jubilee has had on the neighborhood, particularly in my district. And I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for it, and I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, and I'll second that. I agree. Very good. Any other commissioner comments, questions? Commissioner Palskini.
Thanks. I know I already made a lot of comments at the Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting, so I won't beleaguer it. I do just appreciate so much this design, the work that you've done with the community on this. Also appreciate the community activists that ended up getting us to this place, even though I didn't agree with all of the tactics along the way. The results are outstanding. And this is a beautiful, beautiful structure that I think stands in a particularly symbolic spot in our neighborhood, and does credit to the neighborhood to be a partnership between the community and one of the institutions that truly brings equality and justice to our community. And so I just praise everyone for this final outcome here, at least not final, but this outcome right here that we're working with. Really appreciate the design. I do think the south side of the building could be one step higher. And I know that could be an issue for HPRB, but I'll just put it on the record that I think at least one more floor of affordable housing there is more affordable housing. And everyone knows I'm a huge advocate for affordable housing in our neighborhood. So I'd love to see a fifth floor go up on that south side of the building. And I really appreciate the distribution too of family size units that are in this. It's just super thoughtful. And the distribution of 30, 50, 90 is also really fantastic. So thank you again for this. More of my comments are on the record in the video archive of our Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee, but just congratulations to everyone getting here.
Thank you, Commissioner. I second those thoughts as well. Other questions, comments, commissioners? Commissioner Laughlin.
I'm just curious, are there any anticipated, like anything that may delay this any further? Like, or is that most of those barriers been sort of answered or answered now? I'm just like, we waited a long time for some resolution on this plaza, and I'm just curious, like from the perspective of Jubilee, if there's any other potential pitfalls or barriers that would keep you from starting on this project.
Well, I would say, first of all, just with resolution of the litigation, we have agreement in principle on this design. There are a few more process steps that need to take place to turn this into a full settlement and release the litigation. So we're hopeful that that is coming soon. The sort of real estate timeline, the financing timeline, some of you are more or less familiar with this, but we rely on low-income housing tax credit financing, housing production trust funds, city dollars, for which are under siege in this year's budget. Lowest amount of trust fund dollars in 10 years. Bond cap that has been met on the 4% tax credit program. So we're in a super constrained resource environment. We will be applying for financing this fall. The project, by all measures, should score very well. I think it'd just be a matter of, are there enough available resources to be selected in this round? If yes, then we ought to be able to close on financing in 25 and break ground in 25. If not, we'd potentially have to wait a whole year and sit around and just wait for the next financing round. So some of you have been more and less involved with some other Jubilee sites. You know, we acquired the properties on Kalorama in Ontario back in 2018 and 19 and are just now in construction. So this can be a long process depending on how the financing goes.
Thank you. Well, fingers crossed.
And calls to
we don't
council
get
members and other sorts of encouragements, always welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Michelson Horowitz, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just two quick questions. And echoing the comment about getting as many units into this building as possible and raising that, and I've had other comments in the committee. When it comes to the litigation, if you can say, does the settlement that's envisioned include the sort of granting the public easement of the plaza in perpetuity?
Yeah, so where we are now, having a handshake on the basic design concept, is we need to work through how will this function over time, and what will be the monitoring agreement, and who's responsible for what, and all of the things that sort of didn't happen in ancient history that left us in this place. So we're only now turning into those issues, and so hopefully we'll be able to move through them in a decent amount of time.
I think you answered one of my questions. Oh, you have a second question, right?
I did, but I'm forgetting it right now. If I remember it, I'll come back to it.
Okay, so one of my questions was basically that, which is, has there been any resolution of who would care for the open space on outdoors? But it sounds like not quite. This might be over analysis, but Columbia Road has a potential bus priority project. Has there been any discussion or consideration of potential conflict of utilizing space for both doing that and also using it to have construction equipment moving back and forth. I guess that's ambitiously expecting both things to happen soon. So maybe the problem will take care of itself. But is that a thing that could potentially be complicated? Because I know Columbia Road's already like got resurfaced and then ripped up and resurfaced again. So just hate to see that road go through even more beatings if it's not necessary, and to more importantly hinder, development of this property.
I think we looked at the plans for the improvement of Columbia Road that you're talking about, and we didn't see any conflict with anything that we would anticipate doing there on the site. And in terms of timing, of course, like Jim said, this could take a little while because of financing. So depending on when the city is going to start working on Columbia Road, we'll have to manage that process. We have to go before the Department of Transportation, which actually the ANC will have another opportunity to weigh in on. And I'm sure they'll, one of the main issues they're going to have is making sure that we are coordinated with that project.
That's good to know. Although theory and practice are very different things when it comes to interagency coordination. So it's good for us to pay attention. Sure. Michelson Horowitz's question was basically the same as my next one as well. In the meantime, you might have kind of implied an answer earlier, but in the meantime, the question of really public space adjacent to the current building, is there any assessment of what might happen as you're waiting construction?
I don't remember if we talked about this last meeting or not, but we are in the process of remodeling the existing site so that it can serve as office space for Jubilee Housing. We feel like once we can occupy the space, then we can look at bringing the fencing down and really opening back up to the community. So that we've begun that process. Contractors out, you may have seen them. Probably a 3 to 4 month construction process. Nothing ever happens on time. So I'm thinking most likely that the end of the summer, fall time is more likely for when the things will come down. But we are actively in the process of trying to understand how to manage that space well. And you all know that some wonderful things happen there and sometimes some less than wonderful things happen there. And so we're trying to do our part in due diligence and how will we be able to manage the site in the interim. So welcome feedback on that as well. And probably, want to talk to the commissioners at some point downstream when our dates are a little clearer on what kind of help is out there and how we can be partnering with other neighborhood partners to make sure that it's most all the time wonderful.
Thank you for that answer. One other question. It might be kind of looped in with the other part of not being able to comment just because you're still resolving things with the ongoing litigation. But in terms of, kind of like a lot of the design visuals have like performances included and people using the flat space adjacent to the potential building. Is there any plan or has there been any discussion on who would get during work hours or between 7 and 7, I guess, is that like anyone could just potentially show up with a band and just play? Or is there like any sort of, because there's a space indoors that's connected to like storage, which I know a lot of the discussion, because I've been a part of some of it, has been to try to emphasize having community space that can be used as a place of theater, music, other arts and such. Has that been resolved, or is that still an ongoing discussion of how that kind of whole thing would be managed?
That really is the next topic that we'll be working with KCA and AMRD on. So premature to sort of guess at how it's going to land, but I think one of the concepts we need to solve together is how does the community steward this space into the future, and what really are Jubilee's roles and responsibilities? What does accountability look like? We intend to create a lot of definition here, so it's not left gray and hard to deal with downstream.
All right, thank you so much for that. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? Attendees, if you have anything as well, you can raise your hand. Really appreciate this. So there's no motion on the floor. I guess I'll move. Well, I'll do this and I'll go bold and see if anyone agrees because it's been discussed. I move that we support this application to HPRB and add a sentence saying that we'd be open to an extra floor, considering the I don't know the word I'm looking for in my head, just considering how the public space has been incorporated into potential plans, that we would be tentatively supportive if they were to readjust your plans at some point for an additional floor. Can I get a second for that?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Any conversation? I added that
I
line.
got a question.
Any question or comments
I
on
got
that?
I've got a question going back to the additional floor. Not for you, Peter, but would that require a zoning action?
Yes. So it depends on whether we're talking about an added floor on the 18th Street elevation that one person asked about, or whether we're talking about an entirely additional floor. We are designed at matter bright height right now, and to go any higher would require permissive zoning.
What about in terms of parking?
We are well covered on required parking.
Okay.
Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, just point of clarification. The south end of the building is not at the max end of the height, right? And you're not at max FAR or max site occupation
Right.
level?
Yeah, Jake, if you're talking about the step down on the south side of 18th, that could go up. You're right.
I believe that's what Commissioner Wood was referring to, but I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Okay.
That works. Yeah.
We have, so this gets into the complexity of how you move forward. So there's all of the sort of cost benefit analysis and the risk with the preservation board. There's also some things we've already agreed to with the two groups, and this is one of those features. So we'll just have to let us play that by ear and see where we end up.
That's good to know. And like from the ANC perspective, I remind ourselves of this on a regular basis, that we don't write the regulations, we should advise. So there's not really, as if we were to vote in favor as a group, no real cost to saying we suggest this potential thing if the parties that actually have invested stature in this scenario would choose to pursue that. But if you don't want to go through zoning unnecessarily, we understand.
Also, I'd like to point out that the staff of the Historic Review Board was very supportive of the design that Steve presented before you today.
That is good to know. And I know you've put a lot of work, especially into accounting for a lot of detail, a lot of community history, and a lot of community input. And thank you for doing so gracefully. I know it's, at least from my side, being the SMD's representative, very appreciated. I know a lot of constituents have said the same. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right.
We appreciate the positive feedback and look forward to being in further dialogue going forward.
Likewise. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Any other questions, comments?
I call the question.
Commissioner Jones, go ahead.
No, I said I called the question.
Oh, yeah, I thought I said he had a question. Yeah. Let's put it to it. All those in favor of sending a letter of support to the HPRB for the potential redevelopment of 1800 Columbia Road, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate all this.
Thank you so much.
Good luck.
One parting comment. I've been in the neighborhood 50 years at least. I remember the fight over that corner. Initially, they wanted to put a gas station there. I'm so glad that we won that fight, given what is being proposed now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there would be a very different trajectory if a gas station had gotten roots in there, right? Those things are really redeveloped, among other things. All right, so next item on our agenda is general business. This did not go through any committee. Basically, it was my response to last month's very frustrating turn of events with the DC auditor and I guess related entities. Basically, I'll introduce it because I wrote this. The DC code requires that advisory neighborhood commissions participate in a security fund, which is something that the DC government provides, or a similar alternative, basically, which is essentially, and Commissioner Shapiro can fill in if I'm misspeaking at all, although I know you have to leave soon. It's a way to ensure against potential stealing of funds by commissioners, among other things. It's also redundant, according to the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissioners, which is to say DC is self-insured. Their testimony and budget oversight hearing this past month, I think, included a recommendation just getting rid of this requirement. It creates a lot of arguably not helpful paperwork for ANCs, considering we're volunteers. Going and trying to negotiate, as apropos of the last item, negotiating with banks over things is not always the least time-consuming affair. So I know there's a lot of interest from, I think, probably every treasurer in every ANC in the city to get rid of this thing. But the office of the ONC said that they would be supportive, or I don't know if they said it's officially supportive, but they seemed to like the idea of getting a resolution out and seeing if we can start a movement to get that thing out, because it's probably redundant and not necessary, considering all of the things I just laid out. So questions, comments, concerns on this resolution? I tried to write it simply because it's just a specific ask, but there's a little bit of detail and nuance to it. All right, attendees, any questions, comments on this item? Can I get, I'll move to pass this resolution.
I just
and
want to offer one more comment to you about it.
Please do.
That there's an alternative to the security fund, but the auditor's office, who in essence makes money off the security fund, they don't tell you about the alternative. So it's almost it helps them along to have the security fund. And it doesn't protect anything. It really doesn't. So anyway, I'm totally in favor of getting rid of it, obviously. So I fully support you, Peter.
This is a collective effort, not just me. But I think that the Office ONC also told me that I think in like the last 20 years, like 2 or 3 times, there's been the number of times that the security fund was actually relevant to an ongoing or an open inquiry or something like that. So to your point, it's not utilized pretty much ever. So any other questions, comments? Commissioner Laughlin.
So just to simplify it. So, because we're required to put a $50 security fund, is that what we're supposed to pay to get into the security fund, or?
We have to use the money that's given to us by the government to do government things and send it back to the government to protect money.
Right.
It's a roundabout of money.
And for some reason, the Office of the ANC just won't do an automatic deduction of the $50 with the funds that they give us on a quarterly.
No. They make you do all this work and getting things from the bank that sometimes the bank will not issue according to internal policy, which was our case this time. So it's written in DC law. So this is just a push to try to convince council to amend that law just to get rid of this requirement, which would make things a bit more efficient.
Right. And then if that requirement is removed, then it would be easier for the Office of the ANC to release their distributions to the treasurers so that we can do our duties. Okay.
So that
I just wanted to super simplify it because I don't do lawyer speak. So
good. And I'm not a lawyer, so I probably lost some things in translation.
Resolutions are very lawyer speak to me, so I got to break it down.
That's helpful for everyone, I imagine.
I'm a sociologist. Come on.
I'm a geographer, so we can speak a similar language here. And to your last point too, this kind of did come from learning firsthand that if you're denied participation in the security fund, which is required and was very frustrating to figure out why it was denied, then your funds or your allotments as a commission can be withheld, which is probably counterproductive to serving the community.
Right. So I highly support this if this will be the best path forward on getting reliable distribution of our funds, because for ANCs, we are one of the ANCs that does have that we do open up for grants. And so it's been incredibly frustrating and often embarrassing that we support an organization to give them a grant. We do all the work to get them approved for it. We get it approved by the Office of ANC, and then we can't get them a check. And so it's really embarrassing for us as an organ that we can't get them funds that we've approved that would support our community, but also, communities across the district. So this would make us better public stewards with the money that is distributed to ANCs to help support the communities. So I would highly support this.
Glad to hear that. Any other questions, comments, commissioners, attendees? This is really getting to the weeds of ANC stuff. I realize that. So I appreciate the patience. So yeah, I'll move to, I guess, just send this to all of council, send the resolution, pass the resolution, see if they'll just change the law, which would be a nice change. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. And one more item. So just July 2024 schedule. Any other, I guess I'll just start by moving. So I'll move to shift the schedule for July a week. So we'd have July 10th be our first the full ANC meeting, and then the subsequent meeting weeks would be for committees if so needed. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Pasquini. Points of discussion. I mean, we don't even have, like I said earlier, we don't have to have any given month's meeting, and the summer months can be slow. So there's also the possibility we get to the end of June and just say there's not enough that is really on the radar. If there are things, it's probably worth having just because otherwise we'd go till September, just because we have the kind of informal policy of holding August as a recess. But
what is the motion again?
Our current schedule that we passed in January for the year has the July schedule having a full meeting on July 3rd, which is the day before Independence
Oh,
Day.
okay. All right.
So it's just kind of thinking ahead and realizing we should probably adjust that, or maybe it's worth considering at least. Commissioner Laughlin.
I could also, like, if we don't have a heavy schedule for our July meeting, we've talked about, I think the Zoom meetings have been really successful, and have allowed more people to participate. So I highly support that. But I do know that some of our constituents would like some in-person interaction with us. And so in July, depending on what the agenda might look like, that could be the 1 month that we do more of an in-person event, like maybe like set up office hours or a coffee chat or a happy hour at one of the local businesses and sort of do more of a more casual monthly meeting. We could do that's just as a suggestion.
Yeah, I've thought of that as well. And I think a few of us have talked to this point lightly before. Like the rat walk was one opportunity to do something like that. Could potentially, I need to approach him again, but potentially, like on the hook months ago, the fire department said to be open to having some sort of community event to kind of see the department and talk. And there's some other things. And we can also probably at some point use a town hall is the term I often hear, which is basically no voting is expected on any items, but it's a way to just get people to come together and chat. So I know there's pushes for it. And there's also a lot of people, I mean, I think everyone that comes regularly to these meetings has told me directly they want Zoom options. So it's a balancing act. But yeah, that's good points, and we can consider that going ahead. Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree with all of those ideas. I think they're great. I mean, a town hall, coffee chat at the Potter's house, or whatever ANC coffee houses in our ANC kind of thing. I think the cleanups of rat walk and all is fantastic, but it's a little hard, I guess, for everybody to kind of converse, one of those things. So I think something a little more social and informal and so forth would be nice, at least every once in a while, and it's, I guess it's a little more fun to have a cup of coffee in your hand than a cleanup bag and all. So yeah, I think those are great ideas, and the firehouse thing sounds just fantastic. It would be very interesting to get together with those folks and see their firehouse and all that stuff. So anyway, just want to second that it's good stuff.
I think I'm in the minority that I prefer the trash bag to the coffee, but that's okay. Commissioner Palskini. And then Commissioner Jones after you.
Yeah, I'm not opposed, depending on the issue, to have a town hall meeting where a vote is taken, where the citizens are invited to take a vote. I mean, that's what the Adams Morgan organization did. That's how it gained its credence in the neighborhood, by getting them involved directly. Now, it depends on the issue, of course. But I think, I mean, I'm in agreement with the moving the meetings around and getting people more involved. But I think we shouldn't necessarily exclude a vote taken by the community, but depending on what the issue is.
No, that's good comments. Thank you for that. Sorry, I'm having computer issues. Commissioner Falskini, you had your hand up, correct?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to remind everyone that we normally recess in August. So just wanted to make sure that we at least have a meeting scheduled and put on the calendar for July, just in case anything urgent comes up. And then August might be a good time to do more of the in-person stuff. When we're recessed, we can do something informal. Won't be anything, we need to actually get work done for the ANC since we're in recess, but just an opportunity to chat and talk with constituents about various issues that come up for them. So I'd prefer at least that we've got the July meetings on the calendar just in case we need them.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And we can always, like individual commissioners and collectively, we can have informal gatherings, I think, whenever we want, as long as it's
Right.
not a voting matter. So there's nothing keeping us from doing that. With, I would add the caveat, if we were going to pursue some sort of larger, I guess, directly like conversationally focused event, like finding a venue that is able to accommodate for that is the tricky part. It's because you don't know who's going to come, you don't know exactly how the space will work and things like that. So in favor of it, but that's even with our formal meetings, that's often the issue, which is the idea and then the practice. It requires a bit of logistics and it's not always in our favor, but we can work through it. I think that's all right. Any other questions, comments? Shifting the, okay, so the motion on the floor is to just change our schedule. I have to double check what I have to do with paperwork, but I'll get it out. I think we have to send it to the office of the ONC that we're changing our schedule as well. So we can do that pretty simply, just so they can put it on, I think, the official ONC website of the calendar of events for the rest of the city or for all the commissions. So I guess short of that, should be pretty simple. Should this pass in the next few seconds? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 8-0. Thanks, everyone. Great meeting. Hope you have a nice night.